on the stories across the continent. Always good to see you.
Good afternoon, Debbie.
Okay, so we're going to start with this breaking news that we just reported in our Cross Africa report, and that is the killing of this U.S.-born jihadist.
He was from Alabama. He was named over there Abu Musa al-Ameriki. What was so terrible about his situation was that he was so fluent in Somali, but also, of course, being a native Alabamian, fluent in English. So he was a big recruiter for jihadist movements over there. And what he had done over the past years was make these YouTube videos with rap songs and things to entice people to come over there and fight against the Western forces. Unfortunately, as these things go, he had a falling out. And for the last year, the al-Shabaab people have been trying to kill him and another British national who he was working with, because they had the splinter group between the foreign-born fighters and the Somali-born fighters. The FBI had a $5 million bounty on his head, and as of this morning, witnesses say that he has been killed, but by the al-Shabaab leaders themselves.
Okay, and as I understand it, has there been any report that a body has been turned over?
Not yet.
Because there's been reports before that he was killed, and then he tweeted out, I'm still alive.
That it was a stabbing in the neck, and he's good, he's all good. His Twitter feed right now is quiet, he hasn't said anything yet, but witnesses from the village say there were two bodies they believe to be theirs, but we have not actually seen photographic proof of that. But the AP believes that their witnesses are correct in identifying those two bodies.
Such an interesting development of events for someone born in Alabama, to a Southern Baptist mother.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen this on occasion where the American-born fighters turn, and then they become even more dangerous than the local jihadists that are homegrown over there.
Very, very interesting. Well, thank you for the update on that. Also, you wanted to give us an update, and we reported this extensively yesterday in our show. Of course, we know that William Ruto, the deputy president,
trial has begun.
Yes, that's begun. What's the update there, and what's the implications continentally?
Yeah. Remember last time we were talking about how, Uhuru Kenyatta went to China first instead of coming to the United States because of this ICC cloud over his head. Many, many people in Africa are now saying that they do believe that the International Criminal Court has something against Africans because it has only indicted African leaders so far. On the other hand, thousands of people were killed in 2007 in Kenya, and the Kenyan authorities were not able to bring one person to justice for this. It's very interesting because the chief prosecutor of the ICC, she is an African woman, a Gambian named Fatou Bensouda, and she has been telling reporters that Kenyans and Kenyan authorities have been trying to intimidate her witnesses. So right now there's this sense on the continent that, we don't like being targeted, but at the same time, what's going to happen to the families who lost 1,000 people, many of them who are victims of torture still living in UN shanty towns, in tents and things like that? It is a bit of sort of a schizophrenic situation because people aren't happy with the ICC, but on the other hand, they're saying, well, nothing has happened if we let Kenya handle this.
And speaking, the prosecutor says that her witnesses are being intimidated. As a matter of fact, when he appeared before court, they had to adjourn.
Yes.
Because a witness didn't show up.
Because a witness didn't show up, and she has been saying that, this trial will go on and that nothing's going to deter her. It is, the specter of the International Criminal Court, which is this big international body, and yet all of these African players on both sides. There's an African judge, the chief prosecutor is an African, and yet again an African vice president, or for the first time a sitting vice president. Uhuru Kenyatta's trial scheduled to begin in November.
Yeah, of course, this
is going to be a long-running situation for us.
It's going for a long time. I know that you'll keep us updated on that. On to a much lighter note and a much more inspirational story. For the first time, an African has won a round at the U.S. Open.
Grand Slam champion. Lucas Kitole. He actually won the wheelchair quad, which is the wheelchair championships, and then they have the ones for the quadriplegics. And so he beat the American David Wagner in 3 sets, coming from behind after losing the first set. What is so inspirational about this is that this is the first time an African has actually won a Grand Slam title. And it's really, really good. There were thousands of people, many people with disabilities and wheelchairs waiting for him in Johannesburg as he got off the plane. And it's really, really a special moment. I think the last time we were here, we were talking about table tennis and how individual sports is not supported. This is going to be a change in that, because this is a person who has a coach, and Tennis South Africa is just beyond itself, brimming with pride with what they have achieved.
It's so exciting, and I don't know, if you look very carefully, you can see he really has the use of only one appendage, just the one
arm.
The one arm, which looks to be his left arm. He's left-handed, I think. So
yeah. Well, he lost his legs and his arm in a train accident. So he wasn't born this way. So he has only for the last couple of years been learning to reuse his body. And tennis was a way for him to sort of like find purpose in life. And now he's a Grand Slam champion, the first one that we've had from the African continent, either able-bodied or wheelchair. So it's a big joy for us.
Yeah, such an amazing story.
Especially happening in New York City.
Mm-hmm. And maybe a movie will be made of his. I bet it'd be very inspiring. Speaking of movies, the Nigerian film. How was that for a segue? You like that?
Yes.
What's going on in Nollywood?
Nollywood is great. Nollywood is booming, but musicians. Pop music has really had a situation where their music videos are very, very racy for Nigerian television, and so many of them have been banned. One of them in particular is by a very popular group called P-Square. Peter and Paul, they're actually twin brothers, and they have actually been doing a lot of work here in the United States with Akon and the whole hip-hop crew. But on the other hand, they do have a lot of women in bikinis, and for West African culture, which no matter what you think about it, there's a lot of religion and a lot of, cover-up. That has not worked for television. But we're living in the golden age of the internet. So they don't even care about the censors anymore. They just release this online and people just flock to it.
And I'm sure we've made edits that are appropriate for our newscast, but this looks very tame to what goes on our airways.
Sure, but in trying to figure out what was the best thing that we could show in our eyes, some of the dangling body parts had to be removed.
I mean, it really is that explicit.
Yes,
Did it make you blush?
Well, I've seen stuff like this before, and so I think some of it is tame if you live in America, but considering the cultural context of where the audience this is intended for, it's really shocking to the system.
And Nigeria should get ready, because I think we went through this about 20 years ago, and here we are.
I mean, if we think about, for many years you couldn't see a Madonna video called Justify My Love, and you look at it now and you say that's nothing. It's very similar to what's going on in Nigeria now. This stuff isn't on TV, but young people are seeing it and saying, we want more.
Yeah. All right, Frankie Adosian, thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie.
See you next week.
Good to see you.
You're watching Arise America.